Well, joining us live from Chattanooga in the US is former Republican Congressman Zach Wamp. Good afternoon to you, Zach, and great to see you. Yes, Elon Musk already making an impact. We'll get to him in a moment, but let's wind the clock back because I spoke to you the day before the election and your prediction for the result was spot on. Talk us through it.
Well, I think the Democratic Party failed, and this was a repudiation of the progressive left on a host of policies. We talked earlier on your show about immigration, inflation, crime, and gender being the four issues that drove voter activity. And sure enough, those issues actually turned the tail, and President Trump basically swept the country with over 300 electoral votes. But it was a repudiation of the far left, not as much an embrace of President Trump. But he is on a honeymoon right now. He's got about 2 months here where everybody's going to be cheering for him to put the right people in place and be successful. And then there's no telling the claws will come back out. But it is fascinating to look over our shoulder and see what just happened in this country. We did have a free, fair election, and we're peacefully transferring power, which is maybe the best of all outcomes because we were worried about that.
And how do you think Donald Trump will be as president compared to the last time?
Yeah, it's really interesting to see how much he's learned. You know, you talked about Elon Musk a minute ago. He's going to learn a lot, too, about the U.S. government, the Constitution, how much power the Congress has. Article 1 gives the Congress actually more power than the president in this country, even though you wouldn't think so. But President Trump, even in appointing his chief of staff, Susie Wiles, as someone he can trust, that he's worked with, that he knows well, as opposed to last time where he got a general to come in thinking that it was like a military exercise and that everybody would do exactly what he wanted done. He's now surrounded himself with people that he can trust, that he knows he doesn't have to worry about what they're thinking or doing when he's not there. But it's brought some new people to the table. Some are very good and some really shock the country like Matt Gaetz. So it's fascinating to watch the lessons he learned from the first time being put into motion here. I'm encouraged because I do think both getting shot in the ear changed him in some ways. It would change anyone. The mortality, I think he's chilling a little bit, which is good because if he can overcome his own impulses, he could actually go down in history as a great president, making a big difference in the world, which is really needed right now.
And you know Donald Trump personally, you also know Marco Rubio. Talk us through Donald Trump's picks for cabinet and also who we might see coming up as well.
So 2 things happened last week that are really good developments from my perspective. One was his selection of Marco Rubio, which is sort of an Abraham Lincoln type move. You take a former rival and you bring him in and you put him on the global stage. The Secretary of State position is really the second most important position in the U.S. government. That's our emissary in the world. We have a Latin, Spanish-speaking emissary who knows the world, every corner of it, as well as anyone in the U.S. He's every bit of what Mike Pompeo was, a stabilizing force. But then you give this Latin heritage and speaking to the world in different languages. That's a really great dimension. And I think he knows, too, what needs to be done with Ukraine and Russia and NATO and in the Middle East and help President Trump bring more stability to the world and keep President Trump from being perceived as a bad guy, because we have to have good people in the world. Presidents go down in history based on what happens in the world while they're president. They get elected or reelected based on the economy in the United States. And that held true once again. The economy inflation's very high. People are under stress. Average citizens saw the Democrats as elites and out of touch, and Trump maybe listening to them and what their own desires are, which is very ironic because he's a billionaire running around with Elon Musk, and the average man thinks that he's more with them than Kamala Harris. So it's a fascinating moment in the history of the world, really, because the free world is now going to be governed by a guy who was there before. Never has anyone been through what he's been through, 2 assassination attempts, and now he's going to be president again. But I can see him learning the lessons. He also stayed out of the Senate Majority Leader's race. John Thune emerged. Some of Trump's people were trying to get another person, but he thought, I'm going to stay out of this, let the Senate decide. That may be the first recognition of Congress's authorities versus his. And so this could really bode well for the coming months. The real variable is Elon Musk and Vivek, and how far will they be able to get with the reforms that they're going to recommend to make our government efficient again.
Yeah, I was going to ask you your thoughts on Donald Trump and Musk working together. How do you see that playing out?
Yeah, and I think Musk, as I think George Will, or one of the commentators, said, he's going to get a lesson in how the government works. But it is fascinating that we have like the most successful entrepreneurial mind in the world now involved in the U.S. government, at least for 18 months, to make recommendations on ways to clean it up. So, Janie, in summary, I would say the thing that concerns me the most is once President Trump is inaugurated on January the 20th and the deportations start, you know, we can deport 2.5 to 3 million people pretty easily in this country without offending anyone, actually. But then you get further into deportation. How far does it go? The world's going to be watching. You know, we have to be humane, and we also have to restore the rule of law. So that's going to be threading the needle on public opinion as he goes forward with that. And we'll see just exactly how far they really intend to go. But there's a lot of questions, a lot of anticipation. But one thing we know, the American people spoke loudly that they did not want Biden and Harris any longer. They wanted to not go back, but they want a new start. And I think so far, President Trump's choices bode pretty well for the near-term future of our country.
And before we let you go, we have seen such a divide. You know, many people are not happy with this decision. What's the mood been like since President-elect Trump got so many votes? What is it feeling like?
That's a great question, because the division is still there. But I can tell you that this side of the equation, the left, they're so stunned, they don't know what to do. They actually thought they were going to be competitive. And when the people got to make their statement on Election Day and the days prior to, the people spoke differently than the left thought. So right now, the left is still too stunned to even figure it out. They've got to do a real assessment in their own camp of how to speak to average Americans. And so until that happens, you won't see them fight a whole lot, I don't think, because right now they're really stunned. They're on their heels. But probably by January, you'll see them regroup and start fighting President Trump again. And then the warfare will start, you know, politically, so to speak. But it's going to be a real fascinating early part of 2025 in the United States of America and, in fact, in the world. But as Thomas Friedman said, the president has the potential of bringing peace to the Middle East and Ukraine in the Ukraine war. Those would be two massive accomplishments if we can get that done.
Zach Wamp, always great to see you. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your Friday and the weekend. Take care.